Salute squad and welcome to the Mr. Goodbread reaction channel where we learn how not to be a dummy from some well-paid dummies. We watch, study, and follow these stars, celebrities, and entertainers so we know how the broke folks in our community is going to behave. And guys, yo, I don't know if you've been following. I know I haven't. So I got two videos that I want to play right now so that I could just get up on game. Cause I haven't been following. There's been so much stuff going on. You know, you got the Diddy, and then I got other channels. So I've been focused on the reality. I haven't been up on these celebrities and their business. I've been worried about our business. But I want to see what's going on. So I got two pieces of content. One's from Breakfast Club because I'm under the understanding that Tory Lanez, his stabber, was already a convicted. You know what? You know what I mean? So let's get into that, guys.
I think so. Anyway, well, let's get to the latest, Lauren.
So there is an update in the Tory Lanez stabbing situation. So I don't have an update on his health, but I do have an update on the attacker, the alleged attacker. So the person that is alleged to have stabbed Tory Lanez is a man who was serving a life sentence for a murder charge. And according to reports, this was not his first violent incident behind bars. The California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation Center told TMZ that Tory Lanez was allegedly attacked by a fellow inmate named Santino Casio. This happened at 7:20 a.m. Monday morning in a housing unit at California Correctional Institution, CCI, which is where Tory is being housed. And from all reports, they said that prison staff responded immediately. I told you guys that I found out that after they responded and they were trying to help him, he was then airlifted to the hospital where they found out that he was stabbed 14 times.
What's his name again?
His name is Santino Casio.
Yes!
What I tell you?
Race it
You
is!
ain't gotta guess. What I tell y'all?
You Mexican?
What I tell y'all? I told y'all when there is a stabbing multiple times and you have been stabbed over 5 times,
In
it's a
jail.
Mexican. In prison, it is a Mexican.
Okay, let's tell the whole story. Tory Lanez DM just hilarious singing. Just told Chris, and Chris called one of his cousins.
You stop.
And this is why the Breakfast Club, Power 105 sucks, boy, because they always making light on situations that you shouldn't be playing with. This is no joking manner right here. But I do want y'all to know that some of the real huge, biggest race wars happen in jail, guys. In jail lets you know how segregated our country really is. So if you come outside in reality and pretend as if it don't exist, you a fool. It exists. You ain't got to distract yourself with it, but it exists.
Do not ever try to put that on my husband.
Oh.
And no, he's not full Mexican, so this is not his cousin.
Oh.
He's black. He's
Why would he throw that your way?
I don't know.
Well,
But I told y'all.
Casio, no relation to your Chris.
No.
Has been placed in a restrictive housing pending investigation because police are looking into this. And he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole for second-degree murder, first-degree attempted murder, personal use of a dangerous or deadly weapon, and inflicting great bodily injury. So he ain't going nowhere.
And didn't he do this before?
Yes.
Well, yes, he did a couple things.
That's why they shouldn't have a general population.
prison.
Because if I'm doing, how much time Tory got? 19 years, something like that?
Yeah, like 19
Yeah,
years.
you can't have me around these people that's doing life and don't got nothing else to live for. They just could be jealous, envious, hateful. But
I'm sure he had the option to stay in protective custody PC, and he didn't want to.
Well, put me in PC.
The fact that the thing that Jess is talking about is there was a point in prison where Casio was sentenced to an additional 6 years for assaulting a prisoner with a deadly weapon. So
crazy.
Sound like he should have been deported a long time ago.
Exactly.
Well, we don't know El Salvador.
Well,
Even if his ass is here legally, like
he might be legal here. That's what I'm saying.
Stand people up like that.
He might be legal, but if he's legal, we gonna send him.
You know what? Though, long before the deportation, I used to always say there should be a world-star island for certain people. Like certain people, you just got to take them, ship them off. Yes, man. And I was saying this for years.
Tory Lanez.
It ain't got nothing to do with race or ethnicity. This is about behavior.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tory Lanez, his legal team following this happening, they're now holding a press conference. The press conference will take place today, the 14th at 10 a.m. for all press. And they said that they have some new exculpatory evidence that will talk about how his justice was violated in the case that he's currently locked up for, the Meg Stallion case. And
I
right
don't even
now,
know what that means. What's that word you just said?
Exculpatory. So basically,
what the hell is that? I don't even know what that means.
It's evidence that it's new findings that they found that show light, that bring light on something. Like you're like uncovering something. They basically are saying that they have new. They've been fighting for his
it says show or declare that someone is not guilty of wrongdoing.
They're bringing light to the fact that they're saying that he is innocent, which they've been saying, but they're saying that they have new evidence now or new things now that they want to reveal. And right now, more than ever, because of what just happened to him, it's important that they reveal it because they need to get him home.
Okay.
So that's update. And I did ask for update on his health, so hopefully we'll have that. Just checking in on him, seeing how he's doing.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna give us Diddy?
I don't have the time now. I got to bring it back in the next hour.
You want Diddy so bad.
Yes, you ain't gonna give us.
You heard about them
Diddy.
semen recipes. You want to hit more of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's crazy out here, but we gonna get to that, guys. So give me a second. Let me pull that up, cause Breakfast Club didn't want to get to it, but we gonna get to that. We gonna get to that live, that 10 o'clock live. So let's go. Let's hear this new evidence, this new development. As this is why you want to be aware of your surroundings at all time. Don't get too drunk, especially when you out here partying with these chicken heads, boy. Always beware of your surroundings. Many of men have gone to wayside because of a female. Now, she ain't do the stabbing, but we know why he in there. So I ain't blaming her. It ain't her fault. You know what I'm talking about? But we know why he in there. And just be more aware of your surroundings so that A won't happen, then you be in B, and then C happen. But if A wouldn't have happened, you wouldn't have to worry about C. Know what I'm talking about, guys? I know they're gonna play dumb. They're gonna let it go over their head, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Beware of your surroundings, yo. This man could have lost his life.
I know. Don't get no lower than that one, man. Yeah. Wow. Like it's hot. Yeah, that's true. Mike. Yeah, Mike. Mike. First one.
You're part of the organization. This is right there. You did. Come right here. Right here might be better. Santino. All right.
Diana?
That's just accusations at this point.
Right.
Okay, everybody, we're about to get started. If you want to be on this side, please come around. All right, everybody. First off, my name is Caesar McDowell. I am the CEO and co-founder of Unite the People. We're a nonprofit organization that promotes social justice as well as provides affordable legal services for the underserved community here in the state of California. Today, we want to thank everybody for coming out, all of the press, all of the fans, everyone that's here today. We want to say thank you for coming. Today, we're going to hear some really, really compelling new evidence that you've never heard before. Our legal team will explain all of that to you. We will have updates on Tory Lanez, Mr. Peterson, on how he's doing. It's really sad to see the situation that he's in. And we think it's time, enough is enough. It's time to bring the brother home. So with that, I would like to bring up our lead consultant, Mr. Walter Roberts.
Good morning. We are here today to bring to your attention some information Unite the People believes is exculpatory in Mr. Daystar Peterson's case, professionally known as Tory Lanez. Recently, we've been made aware that a member of the media, Mr. Gianno Caldwell, was working on an op-ed for the New York Post regarding Mr. Peterson's innocence. During his work on that op-ed, he became aware of some information in Unite the People's possession regarding a statement that was given to Unite the People by someone with information relevant to that case. The New York Post recently reached out to the prior district attorney, George Gaston, Megan Pete and her representatives, and Kelsey Harris and her representatives. The only party that responded last week was Megan Pete's representative with a request for more information. A few days later, Mr. Peterson's brutally attacked in his jail cell. Unite the People represents Daystar Peterson in his appellate process. We filed an appellate brief and a writ of habeas corpus on his behalf. The district attorney's office has already responded. The case is fully briefed. We're just waiting for the appellate court's decision. We were willing to wait for the appellate process to play out, but given that brutal, unprovoked attack, we felt it necessary to come here today to provide you with this information. It is our intention to make a request to the governor to either pardon or commute the sentence of Mr. Peterson, so that when he recovers from this attack, he's not returned to a jail cell, but that he's allowed to go home and recover. Not long ago, Unite the People was approached by a gentleman named Bradley James. Mr. James informed us he was working as the bodyguard and driver for Ms. Kelsey Harris during Mr. Peterson's trial. As such, he was in close proximity and he had privy to conversations she was having with her husband and others. Mr. James informed us he was not under a non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality agreement and was free to speak with Unite the People, and that he was doing it because his conscience would not let him not speak and leave a man in prison for something he did not do. Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was a witness to the conversation Ms. Harris had, where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times, Mr. Peterson grabbed her arm and knocked it down, and the gun fired 2 more times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody, never even touched that gun, never fired the gun. This statement aligns with the statement of the only non-party witness to the case, Mr. Sean Kelly, who at trial testified he saw 2 women fighting, 2 men break up the fight, 1 man grabbed the other one's arm. Gunshots came from the passenger side. The passenger side is where Ms. Harris was sitting.
Now, I wasn't there, so I don't know, and you wasn't there, so you don't know. But from the amount of body cams that I have been reacting to over on my other channel, the Brutally Honest Goodbread channel, I could believe them 2 girls was fighting, and them 2 girls did this. I know for a fact, based off what I've seen, the behavior I've seen from these women that dress like Megan, walk and talk like Megan. Remember, we study the stars, so we know how the broke folks is gonna behave. Them two chicks did this, yo.
This further iterates that Mr. Peterson did not shoot Miss Pete, did not shoot at Miss Pete, or did not assault Miss Pete. It's just another irregularity in a list of irregularities in this case. For example, there were 3 potential suspects in the car that night, and yet the only DNA sample was taken of Mr. Peterson, even though unknown DNA was found on the gun. Why wasn't Miss Harris's DNA taken? Or was it taken and the information simply never given to the defense? Why wasn't the driver of the car, Mr. Jaquan Smith's DNA taken? Or was it taken and again, simply not given to the defense? We don't know. It should have been taken. It is Unite the People's understanding, regular LAPD practice at a crime scene like that, anybody who's there, the DNA is taken. Another irregularity. Why, at Ms. Harris's police interview, was a non-lawyer, non-family member record company executive allowed to participate? Highly irregular situation. Normally, we see cases, strangers are not allowed in these things, but it was in this case. All of these things point to the highly irregular nature of his trial and his conviction. It is our contention that he was wrongly convicted. And while we at first were willing to let the process play out, it is our contention now that if he is not pardoned or released promptly, he may never come out. And that would be the ultimate injustice, is that he gets killed in prison for something he did not do. At this time, I'd like to bring up Mr. Gianno Caldwell, the media member who was working on that op-ed for the New York Post. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Good morning. Thank you for coming today. My name is Gianno Caldwell. That is spelled Gianno, Caldwell, Caldwell. I am the founder of the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety at caldwellinstitute.org. I am also a member of the press for almost a decade now. I've been looking into Daystar Peterson's case for almost 6 months now, professionally known as Tory Lanez. And after reviewing the evidence, the reporting, and the legal analysis, I've come to the conclusion that Tory Lanez was railroaded by the former district attorney, George Gascon. He was also wrongly convicted. I believe if Jesus Christ was Tory Lanez's attorney, George Gascon would do whatever in his power to ensure that Tory Lanez lost that case. Tory Lanez's defense team have alleged the withholding of exculpatory evidence, prosecutorial misconduct, among other issues that I was compelled to write an opinion piece for the New York Post. It is true that last week, the New York Post editors reached out to 3 parties, one being George Gascon, Megan Pete's team, and Kelsey Harris. It is also true that Megan's team was the only ones that responded back for that request for comment. I had some glaring questions, and that was the reason for this op-ed. Things didn't make any sense to me, many issues in this case, and I was shocked by the lack of interest from the media to ask very simple questions. There were multiple people with gunshot residue on their hands that night. Why didn't all individuals have the residue tested, their DNA tested on the weapon? That's a legitimate question. According to the prosecution, Tory was excluded from the clip of the gun. And according to Tory's defense team, they said DNA analysis showed that there was a 0.01% chance that Tory touched the actual gun itself. Another piece that stood out to me, the call that the prosecution alleged Tory made confessing to a crime. I listened to that call. I'm sure many of you have as well. I didn't hear a confession. But what really shocked me about it is if my best friend was shot maliciously by someone just 2 to 3 hours before, I wouldn't have answered the call, or if I did, I wouldn't calmly have a conversation with the individual of it. And certainly I would ask, why did you shoot my friend? And more importantly, I would never have given you my current location out of fear of you finishing the job. That was something that stood out to me. I also, in my op-ed, discussed Kelsey Harris pleading the Fifth Amendment. She wasn't accused of anything by Megan Pete, or at least to my knowledge, she wasn't under any investigation. So why plead the Fifth? What also shocked me is the prosecution gave her immunity. For what? What did she do? Is there an allegation of her doing something? I'm not aware of that. Maybe some of you can answer that question today. During the time of trial, George Gascon, just to take you back to where we were at that particular point, he had just barely won a recall attempt. He lost support in many key demographics of voters. Crime was up in Los Angeles County. And this case would have been a silver bullet for him potentially winning. His policies obviously were bad and people were harmed. So that didn't happen, and thank God it didn't happen. At the heart of this injustice is the misuse of gun enhancement charges, a sentencing tool intended for the most dangerous and violent offenders. In Tory Lanez's case, these enhancements were not supported by evidence. But George Gascon, interestingly enough, who is someone who regularly would drop enhancements or not recommend them, chose to provide enhancements to Tory. And in his case, in any given situation, according to legal analysts I've spoken with, he would do 1 or 3 years if he did it without the enhancement. That's interesting. Why did George Gascon choose to pursue these enhancements? You know, there's cases I've been looking through which George Gascon has pursued, many in which he utilized these enhancements. A couple come to mind that I would like to reference here. One, Raymond Danger Gonzalez, a Mexican mafia gang member involved in a premeditated murder of 2 young men in 2017. Despite the brutality of the crime, Gascon didn't recommend enhancements. You premeditated murdered a teenager and another individual, brutal crime. Why would you recommend enhancements, but you would recommend them for Tory? That doesn't make a lot of sense. He also didn't pursue sentencing enhancements for the senseless murder of General Hospital actor Johnny Whitker in Los Angeles in 2024. There's a lot of issues with this case. Many, I think, that the media should be pursuing all angles of it. We should not allow there to be unanswered questions. We should pursue open questions without fear or favor to anyone. That includes Mr. Tory Lanez. In his letter from the Birmingham jail, Dr. Martin Luther King wrote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. If we take those words seriously, we must act when injustice is allowed to fester in plain sight." I founded the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety after my innocent teenage brother was murdered in Chicago on June 24, 2022. I stand firmly for public safety, for victims' rights, and for holding criminals accountable. But justice also demands that we protect the innocent and stand against politically motivated prosecutions. This is what I believe to happen here. When we imprison the innocent while violent offenders walk free, which is what George Gascon has often done, we undermine the very foundation of our legal system. Mr. Peterson was never given a fair trial, free from bias, political interference, and media-driven pressure. His continued incarceration erodes public trust and diverts focus from the real work of keeping our community safe. Further, while incarcerated, Mr. Peterson was recently stabbed in prison, as many of you know, a tragic incident that underscores the urgency of this situation and the risk to his life while this case remains unaddressed. Governor Newsom, I respectfully urge you to issue a pardon for Daystar Peterson, known as Tory Lanez, in a full and impartial review of his case. California must not be a state where justice is driven by headlines instead of evidence. And in the case of George Gascon, that was often the case. So I encourage everyone here to go to caldwellinstitute.org, CALDWELL, Institute, INSTITUTE.org, and sign the petition. This petition asks for the governor to pardon Tory Lanez. Thank you.
I'm gonna play that back for those of you that's gonna go over there and sign the petition, y'all. I'm gonna play that back just in case you missed that.
Respectfully urge you to issue a pardon for Daystar Peterson, known as Tory Lanez, in a full and impartial review of his case. California must not be a state where justice is driven by headlines instead of evidence. And in the case of George Gascon, that was often the case. So I encourage everyone here to go to caldwellinstitute.org, CALDWELL, Institute, INSTITUTE.org, and sign the petition. This petition asks for the governor to pardon Tory Lanez. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. I know there's a lot of noise in the media going on with other stories, but I think that this is one of the most important stories happening right now today regarding our Justice Department. My name is Diana London. I'm the CEO of the Secret Weapon Agency, which is a crisis communication firm. And I'm also the CEO of a company called London Global Strategies. I am a member of the media as well. I'm a commentator on a few networks. And I also serve as an advisor for Giano's Institute and also another company called Promising People that is fighting to reduce the recidivism rate in this country and also to correct our criminal justice laws. As a woman who has worked in Congress on criminal justice reform, I deeply believe in law and order. I've worked alongside law enforcement. I've drafted policy to reduce violent crime. I've seen what accountability should look like. But I also know the legal system without integrity is no justice at all. When we get it wrong, when our courts fail the people they're meant to protect, we don't just ruin lives, we erode trust in the rule of law itself. That's why I'm speaking out today for Daystar Peterson, better known to the world as Tory Lanez. This isn't about fame. It isn't about celebrity. It's about fairness. Tory Lanez doesn't want special treatment. He's demanding equal treatment. And if we Americans still believe in a system where guilty must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, then we must admit this case raises serious concerns. Because the truth is, Tory Lanez is serving a 10-year sentence for a crime that evidence, which laid out here today, overwhelmingly suggests he did not commit. Let's go back to the night in question, just like Gianna was just talking about in the attorneys. As the attorneys laid out here today, the prosecution failed to produce a single shred of forensic evidence tying Tory to the actual gun. His fingerprints weren't on it. His DNA was later found to be 100% nearly excluded from the gun, as shown in the worksheet that was provided to the defense late on the eve of the actual trial, after making a request for that very document. After trial, looking at this evidence, there is a 0.01% chance Tory's DNA was on the firearm. That's a difficult statistic to equate with the story as told by the prosecution, which may be why this was not present in trial. In fact, there were 3 people that night at the scene who tested positive for gunshot residues. One of those was Kelsey Harris, as Gianno mentioned, the assistant to Megan Pete. According to multiple sworn testaments that you've heard today, including one from the bodyguard and driver with Harris on the 2 days of the trial, Harris admitted to firing the weapon during an emotional outburst. Tory intervened to de-escalate, not to harm.
It's over, boy. There it is right there. And I said that from jump. That was how I assumed it went down. Because like I told you before, I done did enough body cams with 2 drunken women. 2 drunken modern women is dangerous. So I said it a long time ago. The girl admitted it. That's why she pleaded the 5th.
It is important to note, the police did not fingerprint anyone else who had gunshot residue on them that night, only Tory. Why? Even more troubling, the investigation itself was a disaster. Bullet fragments disappeared, the gun serial number was sealed, a move that blocked the defense from investigating ownership. Police failed to follow standard procedures. Why? Didn't mark shell casings on the road and didn't test others involved that night with DNA. This wasn't justice. It was a rush to judgment. Worse still, the prosecution knew the case was thin. So what did they do? They tacked on gun enhancements, just like they spoke about. The charges, these gun enhancements are meant for gang shootouts and armed robberies to inflate the charges and turn a flimsy accusation into a decade-long prison sentence. Enhancements are a powerful tool against violent offenders, but using them in a case with no forensic evidence, murky testimony, and the defendant with no criminal history, that's very important to point out. He had no criminal history. That's not justice. That's a political stunt. Let's be blunt. This prosecution had everything to do with headlines and very little to do with truth. It was about symbolism, not substance. And that should concern every single one of you here today and in this country. Because when the facts take a back seat to identity, when due process is sacrificed for public spectacle, we all lose. Just yesterday, a Los Angeles court ruled the Menendez brothers, who brutally murdered their parents, are now eligible for parole after serving 35 years. They admitted to the crime. Tory Lanez, who killed no one and has still remained his innocent today, whose case is riddled with inconsistencies and prosecutorial failures, is expected to serve a decade. How is that justice? I've worked in federal criminal justice policy. I helped pass the First Step Act during President Trump's first term. I've spent years focusing on ending recidivism, building rehabilitation pipelines, and protecting the innocent from institutional overreach. I didn't fight for reform just to see the system weaponized against someone because he's famous or inconvenient. And let's be clear. If a high-profile Black man with no prior violent convictions can be railroaded this easily, what hope is it for the everyday American who lacks his resources? Some people may want to dismiss this today as noise.
Hold up. Can you say that one more time? Say that one more time. One more time for the dummies in the back.
Criminal justice policy. I helped pass the First Step Act during President Trump's first term. I've spent years focusing on ending recidivism, building rehabilitation pipelines, and protecting the innocent from institutional overreach. I didn't fight for reform just to see the system weaponized against someone because he's famous or inconvenient. And let's be clear. If a high-profile Black man with no prior violent convictions can be railroaded this easily, what hope is it for the everyday American who lacks his resources? Some people may want to dismiss this today as noise. But as a conservative, we are a movement that claims to care about over-criminalization, prosecutorial abuse, and restoring faith in American institutions. Well, here it is, laid bare in front of you. The prosecution manipulated the narrative. They buried key facts. They got the conviction they wanted, but not the truth we all deserve. As Gianno mentioned, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. warned us that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And this case proves it. If we let this stand, if we accept a conviction based on emotion rather than evidence, we abandon the very foundation of our system, that all men are innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The timing of these events raised disturbing questions to me, and I think they all should to you as well. After over 2 years in prison without incident, Tory was stabbed 14 times just days after a major national news outlet reached out to Megan Pete's team, Kelsey Harris, and former DA George Gascon about a story on new evidence in this case. You don't have to believe in conspiracies to see the pattern. When evidence was about to come to light, Tory was nearly killed. So let's stop pretending this is complicated. Let's stop treating this like some cultural war flashpoint. This is about a man, a father, a son, Daystar Peterson, who has sat in a prison cell for over a year based on a case that wouldn't pass the smell test in any honest courtroom. The prison system can no longer guarantee his safety, and that alone should be grounds for immediate action. But combine that with the overwhelming evidence of a botched investigation, and this becomes not just a legal issue, but a morale emergency. Tory Lanez deserves a new trial. He deserves due process. He deserves a pardon. And if justice still matters in America, he deserves to go home. So what now? What do we do now? We're all here today. We are calling on Governor Gavin Newsom, the California Attorney General, and the public at large to act. If you believe in due process, Sign the petition now on the Caldwell Institute page that Gianna Caldwell mentioned at change.org. Let your voice be counted. Let the system know that we see what's happening and we won't stay silent. We can't be a nation that claims to value justice but looks the other way when a man is buried beneath the weight of political motivated prosecution. Dr. King said again, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. This is that threat in modern day time. This is that moment. Daystar Peterson deserves to go home today. And we, the people, have a duty to bring him home. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming out and lending your cameras to the world. We appreciate you being here. My name is Sunstar Peterson, well known as the father of Tory Lanez. His family affectionately knows him as Daystar Peterson. This may seem not even to matter today, but it does to me. The reason why he bears the name Daystar is because I was scheduled to speak in a conference in Washington, D.C. back in the early 2000s. Back in the late 90s. My wife and I stayed in a hotel across the river in Northern Virginia. I was up praying before that conference that I was supposed to speak at that evening. As I paced back and forth in my hotel suite praying, I began to quote the scripture from 2 Peter chapter 1, and it states, "For you will do well to take heed as unto a light shining in a dark place, until the day dawns and the day star arises in your heart." I didn't know whether it was a boy or girl in my late wife's womb, but I heard the Holy Spirit said to me, that is the name of your child. That's why he bears that name today. Now we're standing in the United States of America, land of the free and the home of the brave. I have watched from afar, being a Canadian. I have watched as presidents, innumerable, and other officials place their hand on the Bible and swear a sacred oath to uphold justice, to uphold truth, because that's what justice demands. So before I go any further, based on a courtroom that I stood in 508 days or so ago and heard my son convicted, is a court in the federal reality of things that also holds the Bible higher than judges. And so I'm going to pray a very short prayer before I get started here today. I'm going to pray that in the spirit of when Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God, stood before Pontius Pilate. Pontius said, "Why do you not speak? Do you not know that I have the power to crucify you or to let you go free?" It was only one of the times that Jesus ever spoke. He said, "You would not have power over me unless God Almighty gave it to you today. And I have come to bear witness of the truth." Upon which Pontius Pilate replied, "What is truth?" That question was never answered in Pilate's judgment hall. But I answer it for you today because Jesus Christ himself told us what the truth was. Truth is not a philosophy. It's not an ideology. It's not a doctrine. And it certainly is not a religion. Truth is a person. His name is Jesus Christ, who said, "I am the way, the truth that leads you to life." Father, upon the basis of your word today that this nation was founded upon, I ask that every ear that needs to be opened, including the ear of the governor of the state of California, Gavin Newsom, I'm even asking today that in the midst of Mr. Trump's busy schedule as president of the United States, that this would come into his hearing. And so, Father, I ask you today, by your Spirit, because you're the only reason why my son is yet alive, have your way, and let this be glorifying your name. I thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen. So my name is Sunstar Carlisle Peterson. I come to you today in the capacity of an apostle of Jesus Christ. A word from the first century in our times, it would simply mean ambassador of Christ. So when I stand before you, I don't stand here to speak my own words. I represent the kingdom, and I am under authority to speak only what God allows. First and foremost, I really do want to thank you again, the press corps, and all of you who have vlogs and channels on YouTube or wherever you stream from. Thank you so much for being here. I would like to thank, in fact, all of those who identify with the name Umbrella as One Umbrella. It was actually launched so that my family would not just be the ones benefiting from whatever fame or fortune, but so that all people, anywhere that need a shelter could come under that umbrella. That's the reason why it was launched by Daystar's brother initially, who is known as Wolfgang Peterson. So I thank all of you who have always been an encouragement to us, who have stood with us. Those of you standing here today with Free Tory t-shirts. Jano, can I have that t-shirt right there, please? Those of you who are wearing these and remembering this person, because I want you to understand that from the beginning of this, I stood as far back as 2021, and I watched where a spin doctor for the NBA, now high-powered attorney out of New York, Alex Spiro, ran a campaign to turn my son into a monster in the eyes of the world. At that point in time, God said to us, there is a time to be silent and there's a time to speak. We chose to be silent. And now we've been silent for way too long. The hour demands that we speak. One of the reasons why I stood silent is because I trusted in God, but I also did not want any blowback to affect my son, who was sitting in the belly of the beast. That's why I chose not to speak at that time. I am his father, and that is the second capacity in which I stand before you today as the spokesperson and mouthpiece for my family. Tory has 7 brothers and sisters. He has 5 brothers. He makes up the 5, I'm sorry, and there are 3 sisters. So today I would like to share a few things with you as well. I want to dispel a few rumors because I've been asked to by my son, Daystar, aka Tory Lanez. Number one, Daystar does not have a drinking problem. He does not have a drinking problem, and that was not the reason why this situation happened. He was not out on the yard, as it was about 6:30 in the morning, and cells were just opened for them to be able to go out to breakfast. On the Thursday prior to this incident, I was called by him, and I was told of the impending threat. And my family and I huddled and did what we always do. We prayed. We get together every single day and we pray. Sometimes it is twice per day. Wherever we are in the world, at a certain time, we're on our phones and we are praying. We pray for him. We pray for you. Because our mandate is not about violence. We're not here for vendetta. We're not here for any of those things. My son, as I stood with him in the hospital room on the first day, my wife being present, said, Dad, I'm not holding any animosity against this guy. I don't want to take any action against him. Whatever the system does, the system does. But that is his stance, and that is our stance. Might I go a little bit further? Because this will not be the first time I've said this publicly. I bear Megan Thee Stallion no ought at all. In fact, we have prayed for her on many occasions in our times of prayer. So this monster that Alex Spiro tried to create, and when I stood in the courtroom on that day and heard a corrupt prosecutor dismiss the fact that so many people, it was overwhelming the amount of people that sent letters to their office and were called to testify before the courts as they were considering sentence, which had already been decided, and the judge blatantly showed on that day that it really didn't matter what anybody said. It was supposed to be a forum in which it would be decided based on all the extenuating circumstances, etc. But it had already been decided behind closed doors. It's so funny that there is indeed a woman who has made it her life's mission to be the whip in the press or on the vlogs. I'm not even going to call her name right now, but those who know, know. Everything that has to do with Tory Lanez, I believe that she is in some way compensated to spread these narratives. And so before the sentence was read in court, she already knew. That's really interesting to me. She already knew because she had discussed it with others, not knowing that it would come back to us. God is my witness. So moving right along, Daystar did not suffer superficial wounds. He was stabbed 14 times, 5 times in his back, 1 under his left cheekbone. In fact, his jaw was open. He was stabbed twice in the back of his head, and the rest in his torso, arms, and in his chest. It may seem sensational, but thankfully, like Dr. King, it was close to his heart, but did not penetrate. After that, he was being rushed to a facility nearby in a vehicle in which he said, and I quote, "Dad, I thought it was my last. And having made my peace with God, I said, okay, God, is this how it's supposed to end for me?" But God said no. God told him, "Do not give up," in the car, upon which he turned to the attending officers and he said, "You must get me to wherever is the closest place that I can get to. I'm bleeding out here." He didn't even know his lungs had collapsed. All he knows is that he couldn't breathe. He could hardly speak. Upon which the officer turned around and looked at him and said, "Nah, we got to take him. He has to be airlifted." And thankfully, to God be the glory, he was airlifted. I want to report to you that I am very thankful to all of the attending nurses, doctors in that facility. They have done an amazing job in their professional capacity. I would also like to publicly say thank you to the COs, the correctional officers that we have seen around him. In fact, these guys have been nothing but kind to him. The system is one thing, but guess what? There are people who work in the system, and some of them still have hearts. Some of them still have a conscience. So as I'm winding down today, I would like to report to all of you who care about Daystar Peterson, the artist Tory Lanez, around the world. The reports in the hospital is that he is doing remarkably well. I was told yesterday, because they had already taken out the tubes that were draining the fluids from his lungs, they had already taken them out by the time my wife and I got there. And I was told by the nurse, in his particular condition, normally they would have had to leave those tubes in at least a couple more days. But yesterday they took him out because they said he is recovering remarkably. All that is left is for the healing of the wounds. So thank you for all that have gone up sincerely on behalf of Daystar and my family. We are truly grateful. But this is not over. So I'm reaching out to every prayer warrior around the world who knows what Christ stands for. Please continue to stand with us. As I stated before, Daystar was not drunk on that morning. It was 6:30 in the morning. There was nothing like that. It was an unprovoked attack. I don't want to go into the details of how it went, although I know them, because it is too gory to be describing right now. And so as I close today, whatever has been needed to be said has been said. So as I close, I want to quote you David, the king of Israel, who said, "You lead me beside still waters and you restore my soul. You lead me in the path of righteousness for your name's sake. And even if I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil." One of the officers turned to me yesterday and he said, "You would be so proud of your boy. He has been in here and he has been praying." I got there to the hospital the first day, and typical Daystar, he was entertaining those officers. They were laughing. They were just, and he said, "Dad, it only hurts to laugh." But something broke my heart yesterday when towards the end of our visit, he said, "Dad, why is it that my life has to go through so many trials? Why? Why do I have to experience this?" And that's the note that I want to close on, to tell you that this person they've been trying to paint as a monster, that they were so scared when all of those testimonies came in. People I did not even know that he had secretly done things for. This is a guy, he would do things and not even tell anybody. And one young lady called me and said, "I was struggling. I was diagnosed bipolar. I was struggling. My children said your son offered to pay my rent for 1 year while I could recover." The prosecution at the trial, when all of those testimonies came in and said, "Oh my God, you think that we were here to hand out the Nobel Peace Prize?" And that's how he dismissed it. But as I said on the court steps that day, God records all of it. And I know that my son will have justice. I lastly would like to reach out via this medium to say to the governor of the state of California, "Sir, it is in your hand to do something about this. You have the power and the means to examine the evidence that has been presented even to the courts. This is a travesty of justice. And to allow my son to go back into that same situation, a kid that when he went to prison, one of the things he has done so far is through his music to open up the cases of over 467 people through his Hands of God project to help families who can't even pay for justice on behalf of their loved ones. There was a post showed up on YouTube recently, a young man saying, I'd like to thank Tory Lanez. I would like to thank Unite the People. I'd like to thank all of them for allowing me to be able to be taken off of 4 life sentences. 4.
Plus 74 years.
I'm sorry?
Plus 74 years.
Plus, like, I don't even understand that kind of math. How do you say to a human being whose lifespan is 70, 80, plus 74 years? 4 life sentences plus 74. This is who Daystar is, not what they've tried to make you think he is. He never stops seeking to help people, even from behind the prison walls. Governor Newsom, you have the power to bring my son home, and for all of the reasons that went before I even ascended this podium. Sir, you are a family man. You also have children. Please take a moment and look at your child and ask yourself what you would be doing if the evidence was so overwhelming. Would you think that this man should be free because he's innocent? I hope you do. And I hope you do what you need to do. God bless you all. Thank you so much for being patient with me.
All right, next. First, I want to say if you have a loved one that's incarcerated in the state of California and they were disproportionately sentenced, illegally sentenced, contact Unite the People at unitethepeople.org. Give us a call, 888-245-9393, and we may be able to help your loved one. Now what we're going to do, I'm sure we're close to out of time. It's gone too long. All right. If press, if they need any questions.
They can reach out to Marty.
Okay, hold on one second, ma'am. We're going to bring up Mr. Walter Roberts from Unite the People. He can answer a few questions, and then we have to cut this short.
No, we have not. The appellate case and the writ case is fully briefed. We're just waiting the appellate court's decision. So we haven't gone that step yet because it may not be necessary. As I said in my opening, as further illustrated, bringing it to light now was made necessary by the events of this week. So no, we had not previously done that. We will consider doing that, but we're really asking the governor to do something immediately, so that's not really necessary. We have not, no.
All right, next question. TMZ.
You know about any plans to transfer?
We won't know anything about that. That's next.
I actually spoke to Nathan yesterday at the Menendez trial, so he's aware of it, and I suggest all of you tweet him on Twitter or call the office. Also, 2 things. Sean Hawley connected to Jay-Z with Reasonable Doubt, the show. You guys didn't talk about that at all. She has connections with Jay-Z, obviously, with the show. And then also, Justin Edison, the former bodyguard of Megan Thee Stallion, he was her bodyguard who had access to guns. I posted on Twitter, there's a video showing where he's drunk and he has a gun and he's saying he has lots of guns after she allegedly got shot. So in reference to like the handprints on the gun and where the gun came from, Justin Edison actually showed up late to court.
No, what kind of question? You want him to answer that, ma'am? Like, what the? That's a run-on sentence right there, man. That's a paragraph, like.
He was never talked to. That he's somebody you need to look into. So I don't know. Are you guys doing anything with Sean Hawley?
No. We're appellate counsel. We don't have anything to do with the trial. People who handle the trial and all of that, we don't. We're post-conviction only.
Maybe it's more of a.
So no, we're not doing any of that.
You call it the attorney general.
We'll have to deal with that later, man. We don't want to cut everybody short. One last question, and that's it. One last question.
said that it wasn't necessary to have given this new evidence to, the commercial and
I did not use that word necessary.
not needed at the time yet.
Well,
Were you given this information about the new evidence?
we were provided with this information after we had already filed all of our briefs. We weren't even aware of Mr. Bradley James. That's why it was a few months ago is when we got it.
All right, well, that's it. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We appreciate you guys, appreciate the media. You guys have a great day.
I'm going to send the press release with the affidavit, everything. So
Thank you, everybody.
If I don't already have your email, please let me know and give it to me so I can make.
All right, guys. So that's the latest on this subject right here, the Tory Lanez subject. So, like I said in the beginning, guys, just make sure you're aware of your surroundings at all times, because they sending them, man. They sending them all colors, man. They sacrificing us left and right. You got Lil Wayne, you know what I mean? Shay Shay. We know about the Diddy. It's just it's nasty, and it's like the desperation at an all-time high. If you peep game, they know that this the last chance to money grab. Things is changing. Things is rolling over, and they feel it, guys. Modern women, that is, guys. They feel it, and don't let them sacrifice you. Beware of your surroundings, for real. I ain't gonna hold y'all. We abreast of the situation, so now we know. I'll see y'all later, man. Wrap up, strap up, and drink responsibly.
When you see men fall, don't laugh. Learn. Learn. Because you're on your way up. And the things that tempt people to fall, you and I are not free from that temptation, nor from the weakness that will cause us to stumble and fall. When you laugh at somebody else's fall, white or black, rich or poor, your enemy or your friend, you are laughing and opening a way for your own demise when you do that. Because to laugh and not learn, to make mockery and not